The Mets have made a huge trade. The Mets have now traded for Freddy Peralta. It has been a wild 24 hours, guys.
This has been a roller coaster. We can't keep up. It's literally, it can't keep up with these pods right now. It's nuts, guys. It's a good time to be a Met fan.
We needed it. We needed the ace. We needed someone to take game one of a playoff series. We got it. We're ready to roll.
Met fans, I can't hear it anymore with the I'm not happy, or this offseason has been a bust, or we haven't done enough. Freddy Peralta is a huge get for the Mets 2026 team.
Welcome back to the Meet the Mets Fans podcast. What is happening right now, guys? This is the third time that we are going to attempt to reintroduce what's happening in this episode. The Mets have made a huge trade. Following the Bichette press conference, the Mets have now traded for Freddy Peralta. It has been a wild 24 hours, guys. Sid, we've got Freddy Peralta on our team now. What are your thoughts?
We needed it. We needed the ace. We needed someone to take game one of a playoff series. We got it. We're ready to roll. We got a workhorse. Good thing about Freddy Peralta is that there's a level of familiarity with his stuff. I think it's going to work out exceptionally well. I personally like this move. Other than Scooble, I felt like what it cost was not as bad. Jett Williams and Brandon Sproat will be missed. Really good top prospects. But we needed an ace, and that's just what the market was going to require. It sucks. I wish those guys the best, but it's time to get ready for opening day. We got ourselves a opening day game one starter.
Yeah. Justin, Brandon Sproat and Jett Williams, two not Mets top prospects, two MLB top prospects that are coming into this trade in order to land Freddy Peralta. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, my first thoughts is, do GMs and presidents know that you can make a trade in the hours of 9 a.m. to 5 p.m., and that trades don't need to happen in the hours of 10 p.m., 2 a.m., okay? We all have jobs. We all need to wake up in the morning. But we also need to respond to these things, and these guys are killing us. That's what's going on right now. I am laying in bed with my children, and my phone is blowing up, and all I see is Freddy, and I lose it. Now I'm like trying to push them all to the side. I'm like, what's going on over here? Stefan, you're not responding. You got obviously a kid right now sitting with you. I mean, this is crazy. The last 24 hours have been nuts. Fans, I can't hear it anymore with the I'm not happy, or this offseason has been a bust, or we haven't done enough. Freddy Peralta is a huge get for the Mets 2026 team. This is massive. I know you just mentioned the top prospects that they gave up, and they are. When you're talking about, this is not just like Mets top prospects. You're talking about, Jett Williams, like ranked number 30th overall in all of baseball. Brandon Sproat, like first, right, in the latest rankings, okay, for Baseball America. And so, you're talking about major assets that the Mets did have to give up for Freddy Peralta, but there's a reason why they had to give up those assets. It's because Freddy Peralta is a legit ace. He had a 2.7 ERA, and someone that has been so reliable over the last 3 to 4 years, where he consistently throws 160, 170 innings. And that's just something the Mets didn't have last year. It's what we lacked. We lack this ability of having a stopper, someone that can, when the team is bleeding, we're on a losing streak, can kind of come in and they can stop that losing streak. And I believe that Freddy Peralta is someone that is going to be able to do that for the Mets. And that's exactly what this team needed. Sid, you just talked about a game one starter. That's exactly right. Going into this, the Mets somehow did make the playoffs, and now you're relying on a rookie for your game one start. I'm not saying that McLean can't do it, but it's nice having a Peralta and now a McLean. And I think that really kind of shures up, or hopefully shures up, this rotation.
Yeah, workhorse.
Yeah, guys. So
yeah,
for sure. Definitely a workhorse. To complete the trade and to make, I don't think we even said the entire trade in its entirety, so let's make sure we do that. The Mets don't just get Freddy Peralta in this deal, which I think is important. The Mets also bring back Tobias Myers in this deal, a relief pitcher who's been a starter in the past, a guy that can definitely add to this Met bullpen right now. Justin, you mentioned it to me as who he was and what he's done in the past, and the immediate reaction I had to Tobias Myers is he's better than Paul Blackburn, right? Definitely an immediate upgrade over Paul Blackburn in the role that Blackburn had, that guy that can step in as an additional starter if you need him, if somebody goes down, but a guy that can definitely be a long man in the bullpen. I have to share it right now before we forget to do it. Our buddy Ryan just texted us. A little nugget for the pod is what he said. In the 2024 wild card game 3, the Mets versus the Brewers, the game where Pete miraculously homers off of Devin Williams in the 9th inning. 3 players who pitched for the Brewers, Tobias Myers, Freddy Peralta, and Devin Williams, all New York Mets now.
David Stearns, did you run the Brewers before the Mets? Oh, yeah, that's right. Okay, that makes a little bit more sense now. These are clearly guys that you might have had a little bit of a hand in acquiring at some point during your tenure. I was mentioning to Stefan, just before we hopped on that, at the beginning of the season, Stearns talked about having relievers or guys that can pitch multiple innings. And I think that a guy like Tobias Myers kind of solidifies that or gives them that Mets, that long man that they really need in that bullpen. And that 2024 that you just mentioned, that wild card start, yeah, he threw 5 innings, 5 shutout against the Mets in that game 3 start. Someone I'm not saying he's an amazing pitcher, but he's someone that he's a major league pitcher. He's got like a 3.5 career ERA. He's still young. He's 27 years old. Definitely, I don't want to just say like an add-on. He's definitely a piece that's, I think, going to contribute for this team this year.
Yeah, in long season, we need a lot of arms, quality arms, guys that could, handle the spotlight, guys that could take multiple innings. Good job. Good get. I'm pretty sure, from the initial report that was made by, I think it was Heyman, this was probably what was being ironed out. This last relief prospect or pitcher coming back to us. Little details, but I'm happy they got it done. I feel like a lot of people are on in the market for Flamber Valdez. I feel like that'll now fall into place. Scooble may fall into place too, but the Mets kind of front ran it. Same thing with Luis Robert. They didn't wait for Bellinger to take it out of their hand. They were aggressive, proactive. They got the deal done with Robert first before Bellinger signed. I feel like that'll be the next dominoes for this one. I feel Flamber Valdez may sign, and the contract he's going to get is going to probably make me feel better about losing, Jett Williams and Brandon Sproat.
Yeah. I know there's going to be, and myself included, I look at this deal and I say, is this a 1-year deal, right? Freddy Peralta is a free agent next year. He's making $8 million this year, it's obviously a bargain. It's a steal. It's what made him so valuable up this coming year. We'll see if there's like a potential negotiating window now that Peralta has been traded to the Mets. That's the hope, personally. If you're giving up 2 top 100 prospects in all of baseball for a guy that is a 1-year rental, I'm hoping that there's a negotiating window that at least his agent will give the Mets that maybe they'll explore and maybe they can kind of work a deal out before the season began. Similar like they did with Lindor, right? Traded for Lindor, negotiations right before spring training kind of opened up. They were able to sign him to a mega contract, right? That 10-year deal. So that's something that I hope that is still on the table. We'll see. Obviously, this news just got broken. There hasn't been any talks of that just yet. I'm sure David Stearns will come on and talk to the media tomorrow about this trade, and I'm sure that'll be a question that kind of gets posed at some point.
Yeah, good thing is they just not Morris. So I feel like your wishes might be granted. Getting that deal done even before spring training starts would be awesome.
Yeah, absolutely. Justin and I actually, and this episode of the podcast, episode 22, is going to be very, very unique. We're going to have this segment that you guys are listening to right now. We're then going to cut to a segment that I recorded with a guest co-host on the pod, Kweisi, who tells us his origin story and talks a little bit of Mets and what's going on. And then you'll listen to Justin and I talking on our drive home today about some of the other news surrounding the New York Mets, including the Bichette presser that happened today. David will break down the Luis Robert trade, Robert. I don't know what you're saying there, Sid, but you're not the first person I've heard say his name that way, at least not today. Luis Robert Jr. May be the correct way to say his name, but we'll break all of that down. When Justin and I were talking on the pod, and we talked about this negotiating window, and it's something that I brought up, saying I wouldn't be surprised if David Stearns were to try to ask for that before this deal got signed, right? To try to say, I know this guy, I can probably sign him to a long-term contract. I don't want to give up 2 top 100 prospects, 2 of my top 5 prospects in the system to get a guy that's a rental, but I'm definitely willing to give those guys up if I can sign them long-term. So I wouldn't be shocked. I wouldn't be shocked if that negotiating window does end up happening. This is not something though prior to the trade at this point. So I want to make that clear. negotiated that. At least that's not what we've heard. The Mets have him. The Mets have Freddy Peralta on their team. They're going to hopefully try to re-sign him before spring training. At the end of the day, if that doesn't get done, and you can't still lose him. You can't lose Freddy Peralta at the end of this year and make it a one-year deal. The Mets have to do everything within their power to try to get him to re-sign. I think that's the most important thing right now, is making sure that you're not losing 2 top 100 prospects, including a guy in Brandon Sproat who very well could be a frontline starter in order to get a year on Freddy Peralta.
Yeah, I guess the good thing about this situation with Peralta is that he may now entering age 29 be open to like a 5-year deal, 6-year deal, and we could kind of go ahead and give him more this year, where the Brewers were not available or eligible to do that. And if he does opt to walk, then we'll get the draft pick conversation, because the qualifying offer will still apply to trade, and so we could recoup the prospects lost in that sense. But I'm very happy we didn't give up Jonah Tom. I like Brandon Sproat, but in my gut, I feel like Tom is gonna just provide a lot more than Sproat, just with just the level of his stuff, his intermissibility, just the different arm angle he pitches from compared to all the other starters. So I think keeping Tom was very important for us to get this done.
Yeah, I mean, Sid, not only did they keep Tom, but they kept McLean too, right? Like, I know that people forget that he's a rookie, but Nolan McLean's a rookie as well, right? And so you were able to keep your top 2 pitching prospects and acquire what a lot of people refer to as an ace in this league in Freddy Peralta. And so when you look at it from that perspective, right, that's a perspective that you really have to say, that's a home run. You kept your top 2 pitching prospects and you acquired what to believe at least your number 1 going into this year, someone who has been dominant over the last couple of years. And so, it's definitely something that I agree with you. I think that Tong is a different pitcher than Sproat, like in terms of his elite ability, right? I think that he is someone that might be like a true ace, right, in the future. Where I don't know if Sproat is going to be able to get to that level. I think I view him more as like a 3, maybe a low end 2 if he really excels. But that's kind of where my head's at with this trade. So, overall, I'm really happy with it. I think all Met fans are going to be really happy with it. This has been a crazy 24 hours. This has been a crazy 7 days. Since that Tucker news has broke, I feel like the Mets have went scorched earth on the entire MLB and was like, yo, screw it. That's it. We're going in. We're going in, right? Between Luis Roberts, and now with this Freddy Peralta.
He's got some things to say. This is AJ, Arian Jacob, named after Jacob deGrom, joining us for his first episode of the podcast. He's got a lot to say about this trade. And I agree with you guys on Tong. That's the one guy I didn't want to see leave. Absolutely. I think the Mets may have made off on this one in a great deal to bring Freddy onto the team. We're going to continue to talk about this, Met fans, on future episodes. Stick around on this episode to listen to Kweisi, his Mets origin story, and then stick around a little bit longer after that to hear about all the other things surrounding the Mets, including the Luis Robert trade, the Bo Bichette news, David Stearns speaking at Bo Bichette's press conference about his next steps, which were exactly this. He said at that press conference, my goal is to bring in a front-end starter, and he did it. And he did it within hours.
This has been a roller coaster. We can't keep up. It's can't keep up with these pods right now. It's nuts, guys. It's a good time to be a Met fan. I'll tell you that much. It's exciting.
Yeah, Met fans, if you were not excited for the season this morning when you woke up, I hope you're excited for the season when you wake up tomorrow morning.
No doubt.
All right, we're going to close it. You guys want to close out? I'll stick around, and we'll hear from me and Kweisi next.
All right, let's go Mets, boys. Come on.
Go Mets. Let's go.
Keep it rolling. Scooble next. Just kidding. Maybe.
You never know.
What's going on, y'all? What's going on?
So, Kweisi, you are a fan that I met at the stadium through my boy Joey Bo. We've gone to a couple of games together. You're a super big Met fan. I'm excited to have you on the podcast to hear your story, to talk about how this offseason is going, and we'll react to some of the things that are happening around the team right now. But if you can start off by just telling me a little bit about you, your story about how you became a New York Mets fan. Why do you live this life?
I don't even know if I had a choice to even become a Mets fan. I was born a Mets fan. Yeah, my dad, he was a Mets fan his whole life. So, of course, I'm going to grow up one. Well, not of course, but, I just, being from Queens, growing up with David Wright especially, that's my last name, as a third baseman, it was just one of those things. I was like, this is something I could get into. This is a guy, he's doing something big. And that was like I was young at that time, so it was pretty interesting. I was like, let me see what's going on.
Okay, gotcha. What's your first memory of really loving this team? That you're like, that's my team. I love this team.
Dude, I went to Shea in like '02, like 5, 6, whatever. And that place was just rocking, dude. I was like, yo, this is crazy. Just being like brought around there with my pops, like him knowing people, buying things for me, and just like the smell of the baseball field. It's just a great thing. And I was like, yo, this is very exciting. And I'm probably going to do this the rest of my life.
Yeah. How many Met games do you say you go to on an annual basis every year? How many games you go to?
Dude, it varies. I'm a ticket holder, so I get 40 games, but you could easily end up going to 70 because you get vouchers. People you know just start throwing you tickets. But yeah, easily like 70 games, dude.
Gotcha. And you're a 40 plan holder. Go to all those games. You got 2 tickets that you get for every game that you go to. Like you have
Yeah.
two seats, right? Cool. And is one of those seats dedicated to somebody, or are you using your membership to, like, I know with mine, you can kind of flex the second ticket, get to
Yeah.
another couple of games. So are you often bringing someone? Is there someone you go with regularly, or are you using that
So
extra ticket to stretch your package?
that extra ticket originally was for my pops, but he's been so fed up with the Mets. Like he's just like, I'll go to a game here or there, but you just enjoy it, bring whoever. And then I started going to the games by myself, and I'm like, wait, I could bring whoever. But it's hard to even give Mets tickets out when we suck.
Yeah, I hear you.
Yeah, like, so normally I would just go with my boy Hector, of course, Heck, and to whoever's willing to go. Sometimes I'll sell them, but most of the times I don't even sell them. Like I usually find somebody to give it to.
Absolutely. Try to spread the love with the Mets tickets for sure.
Definitely.
What would you say is the most disappointing memory you have of being a Mets fan? And there's a lot to choose from, so I'll give you if you need a second to think about that.
Something I actually can remember would be 2015, but of course 2000 is very upsetting as well. But 2015 was pretty upsetting for me, especially because I wasn't here. I was in Florida at the time, and I'm like, yo,
No, you're
the
gonna
one
fix
year
it.
I'm not home, these dudes make it and then squander it. So like that was just very upsetting.
Yeah, is 2015 worse for you than 2025?
Probably not. 2025 is probably the worst, but that was like more heartbreaking because I knew what we were doing. But 2025, I kind of went into that like we got Soto.
Gotcha. The last one I'll ask you from your like amazing beginning origin story is, and you mentioned it might be David Wright. That's your, sharing a last name with him, but who's your favorite Met of all time?
I typically don't do favorites, but I'd have to say JD Martinez. I'm joking. But I don't know, man. That's a really hard question. I would have to break it down into like maybe play wise. I can't even do a favorite. Can I split favorites? Like, can I do
Yeah,
two
man.
people?
Yeah. This is your time.
Jose and David. I would definitely. I would just leave them there as my top.
All right. I mean, and I think growing up, we're similar age. I would say that's the era I grew up in, where I have the most memory of baseball, obviously, other than what's currently happening right
Definitely.
now. And David Wright, Jose Reyes, that combo at third base, shortstop, beautiful thing to watch for
Can't
the
do it
Mets.
better.
So, for sure. Right now, your opinion on the offseason so far. So there's a lot of Met fans who are hating what's happening. We lost Pete, Nimmo's gone, Jeff McNeil, and we got all these other guys that were brought onto the team. Obviously, there's been a big move with Bichette being added, but what's your opinion on the offseason so far?
My brain is in like limbo with the off season right now. My opinion is I'm not gonna say I just have to trust in what David Stearns is doing essentially. Like I'm not gonna say a lot of the moves are my favorite, but I don't get paid the big bucks to do anything. So I gotta follow through and just see the plan that he's executing. We want the young guys to play. He definitely wants the young guys to play. So we had to move some people around. Yeah, we love them, but when you watch some of those playoff teams last year, you're like, why is my team not as athletic? Why aren't we? How many top 100 defensive plays do we really even get a year? You know
Yeah,
what I'm
not
saying?
many.
So
Not
and not
many.
many. So it would be nice to see a lot more of those, definitely. And I would like to see some starting pitching come. That's what I would definitely like to see. But as of offseason right now, the acquisitions, I love Bichette. That's my favorite one so far. I'm pretty sure everybody's, but Simeon, I I don't see too bad of a year ahead for Simeon, honestly. A lot of people are looking at numbers. I'm not really a numbers guy. The game's played on the field, and that dude could play. Like, he was a part of a core World Series team. He knows how to play the game, and I think he's going to bring a different sort of spice to the team, especially also with Polanco. I'm not really fully familiar with Polanco's work, but I mean, I've watched him play, but I don't know him well.
Yeah, I'd say he's the type of guy that is pretty much the same type of player as a Bichette is, where he's a super hard worker, contact guy. He's not a great defender, and obviously he's going to be playing a brand new position. We'll talk a little bit about the defense of this team in a little bit. But he's a guy who works really, really hard, and he puts the bat on the ball. So it's a very different team that we're looking at this offseason that David Stearns has built. I think you and I are sharing that mentality of we gotta trust what David Stearns is doing, and if it flops, we'll be on here, right? We'll be on here screaming about how bad this team is. But as of right now, I finally actually do see the vision of where we're going with this team, what he's trying to build, and I think it's going to be a competitive team, especially if they can add another couple pieces here.
I agree. Just gotta get some pitching in here, man. I don't know if I could rely on Minaya coming back 1,000%, because that's what I feel like we might be piggybacking on. That and the Kodai situation, like those two guys must execute next year if we're going to see any good results with this team.
Yeah, I hear you. Save your plans for next year, though. We'll wrap up with your plan for next year, what you want to see for the rest. But the next thing I actually want to do, we'll play one of these first clips. This is on Bichette. So now Bichette's a New York Met, right? When we got him, there was every thought in the world that he was going to be a Philadelphia Philly. And I think Philly fans were excited that they were getting a guy like Bichette on their team. I'm going to play you a little clip, and then I want you to tell me how you feel about it. This is from Broads Media reacting to finding out that the New York Mets signed Bichette.
The Mets! The Mets! You let the Mets mollywop you. You let the Mets do this to you.
I mean, we mollywopped you in a playoff series, so like, come on. No,
yeah, I love that. I saw it and I said, "Wow, mollywopped him." That's one way to phrase it.
That's classic, yeah.
It's really good. He goes on to talk about how the Mets are going to flop, and we'll cut that part off. We don't need that for our Met podcast. Yeah. But absolutely, what Philly fans are feeling, I think, is what we felt literally the same the night before when we thought we were getting Kyle Tucker. It seemed like it was in the bag, and then all of a sudden, it turns out he signs with the Dodgers. And obviously, Philly fans now feel the same way. Apparently, the talk around Philly is all about this hate coming towards the Mets for doing this to them. So what are your thoughts on that?
I thought he was going to Philly. I was actually having a conversation that day with one of my boys. Like, to be honest with you, the kid kind of looks like he probably should be in Philly. I'm just being honest, like, because I had no idea that we were even thinking about it. Everything was Kyle Tucker. So my mind was all just, okay, so let's wait for this. But to take him from Philly, I mean, why not? Like, we're in much more need of building than you guys. Like, we trying to take you out of that damn division. Like, I want a division. You know what I'm saying? Like, if not World Series, which, of course we want a World Series, but you got to, I guess, aim low before you aim higher.
Yeah. I mean, I want to produce a playoff team. Obviously, we want to win the World Series. But if we can get a playoff team out on the field, if that team looks better than last year's team, then it's improvement. And I'd be okay with improvement. Obviously, I want to make a run here. We should be making a run. I think believing that you are putting a World Series team on the field is the most important thing. If David Stearns believes this team can do it, that's cool. We'll judge him for it at the end.
That's it. We'll give him his report card at the end. We'll just have to see what he does.
Yeah, absolutely. So we got Bichette. I think the biggest surprise in getting him is now we've got another infielder, right? So all these guys are infielders, and it creates an issue with the Mets defense. So I don't know if you can still see this. This is a clip. I'll read it real quick for our audience as well, who might be listening and not watching. This is from Sarah Langs. If Bichette starts at third base and Jorge Polanco starts at first base for the Mets on opening day, the Mets will be the second team in the last 100 years to start two non-rookie infielders with less than 1 game or less of experience on opening day at a position. Is the defense of this team a concern?
To be honest with you, a lot of those guys I don't think will be here next year. Or, well, this year, I should say. And It's gonna be a lot of trade bait.
Or when you say those guys, you mean like the Brett Beatties, the Mark Vientos?
Yeah, I don't want to get killed. I don't want to put names out there that people hate me, but I mean, I don't care, honestly. In my opinion, I think you could get, because I like Vientos. I would like to keep Vientos. A lot of people feel differently. The Mets felt differently by saying that Beatty was going to be the starting third baseman, but I just see him not being here.
Okay.
Packaged together with maybe a rookie, go get us some pitching. Because if we're not going to sign a pitcher in free agency, then we know what we have to do. Because if that's not going to happen, then no World Series next year, no playoffs next year. So they have to trade for pitching.
So, I mean, the move here, I think, with Brett Beatty, if the Mets keep him, because I think you're right, a guy like Vientos is probably on the move, Ronnie Mauricio potentially on the move, Brett Beatty potentially on the move. But if the Mets believe in Brett Beatty, which it seemed like they did before they signed Bichette, seems like they're going to have him in that Jeff McNeil role, moving him around all over the place, third base, second base, first base, potentially. But there's a lot of talk now about him being the left fielder, about learning that position, diving into it. Apparently he did play a little bit of left field in the minor leagues. I'm going to play a little clip for you. Brett Beatty making a play in the minor leagues.
Making a play in the minors?
Yeah. Check this out. Brett Beatty throwing a seed to Alvey to nail a runner from left field.
He even played a little bit of left in Syracuse, throwing an absolute seed to Alvey to cut down the runner at the plate. Just take a look.
Throws. First pitch, ground ball, base hit left field. Stamets will get the wheel around third. They'll test Beatty. His throw to home is a bit high, but Alvarez gets the tag down, and Stamets is out.
I need a different view of that clip. I need more angles of that clip. Because I don't know if that dude's just slow or like...
Yeah. I mean, I can't call it. Fireside Mets put that together when they talked about how Brett Beatty potentially could be a really good left fielder, about how his arm could play well over there. He's got a solid arm for third base. So that's the one angle I got ready, and I snipped that from Fireside Mets. They do a really good job. So shout out to them. And obviously, it's one play. Right?
Yeah.
Anybody can make one play look really good. We've seen Brandon Nimmo make a great throw from the outfield from time to time. They're few and far between, right? So I'm not going to sit here and say that Brett Beatty is going to win a Gold Glove in left field. But if he can go out there and make plays like that consistently, where guys are going to test him and he's going to show them that he's not to be tested, then maybe the Mets have something here where Bo Bichette absolutely can be the third baseman and Brett Beatty can be serviceable in left field.
Listen, you gotta do what you gotta do, and if they believe that he has the, I don't even want to say skill, but if they feel he has the stuff to be out there, then we got McNeil 3.0, man. Like let's do it. We got a lefty out in the left.
Yeah, I mean, I'd like it. Brett the Met.
I do. I mean, why not? Why not? Hey, if he's gonna stay here, send him out there and let him do what he do.
Yeah, I mean, he's got to play there all through spring training, right? Like, we got to see what he can develop there in spring training and see if he can earn that spot. So the Met defense, I think it's still a question mark. A lot of people are not giving it the credit that it can have. The Mets have brought in athletic guys. And the one thing I said on the pod before, and I'll keep saying it, is David Stearns knows how to judge talent. Right? Like, we all say that, like, he can build a minor league system like no other. The question mark is, what does that translate to at the major league level? So if he can look at these guys, Polanco, and say, yeah, this guy can play first base. Like, we might not have seen it, but whatever his scouting says about these players, he believes that they can make these shifts to other places. And again, like you said, we don't make the big bucks here, right? If he believes that they can do it at a major league level, I understand that it's never happened. It hasn't happened in the last 100 years that a team has done what the Mets are probably about to do. But hey, David Stearns might be the genius, so we'll see.
We're going to have to figure out what the 48 Dodgers did. Did they win a World Series?
Probably not. I'll look it up when we start talking about the next segment. We'll find out. Right, the next one that we will jump to actually just happened a couple of minutes before we recorded this podcast. The Hall of Fame induction information just came down. Carlos Beltran was just inducted into the Hall of Fame. So I got another little clip here. This is Beltran receiving the news. I don't know if you've seen this one, but we'll play it for the audience.
No, yeah, I did.
All right, let's play this one for the audience.
Yes, John, how you doing?
I'm good. I'm here with a few folks who wanted to say hello.
Carlos, this is Jack O'Connell with Baseball Writers Association of America.
How you doing, sir?
I'm doing well. I'm calling you from Cooperstown. Baseball writers have elected you to the Hall of Fame.
It's like another draft.
And so that was posted on Mets Instagram. I pulled that off of Francisco Lindor. The Mets actually put together on SNY and on their personal Instagrams, on SNY's Instagram, this really nice package. And if you haven't seen it yet, with a ton of Carlos's old teammates, managers coming out and congratulating him. But Francisco Lindor put up something as well that I have up here for the audience right now to see. I'd like to congratulate Carlos, Jessica, and the rest of his family on a remarkable achievement of his induction into the Baseball Hall of Fame. Growing up in Puerto Rico, Carlos was an important role model to so many of us. After getting to know him personally, I saw firsthand what an exceptional father, leader, and role model he truly is. He paved the way for generations of Puerto Rican baseball players and set them on a path to success. For that, he truly deserves this moment. Carlos Beltran headed to the Hall of Fame. What are your thoughts?
Dude, definitely well deserved. They need to get my boy Reyes in there now. I don't even think he can, actually. I don't think he's eligible anymore.
Maybe one day he'll come back in at that when they bring back the players who fell off the ballot. It's like 5-10 years after they're no longer eligible. But I don't know. You think Jose Reyes has the numbers to be a Cooperstown Hall of Famer?
He's in my heart.
Hall of Fame of Kweisi's heart, maybe, but I don't know about I don't know about Cooperstown. Maybe one day Hall of Fame for the New York Mets, right? Like that's probably going to happen. Everybody makes it to the Mets Hall of Fame.
Pretty much.
There was something that came out that it sounds like the Mets are thinking about retiring Carlos Beltran's number, potentially with like the celebrations of the 86 team scheduled to happen this year. There seems like there might be some conflict in whether or not they're actually going to be able to do that. But how would you feel if the Mets were to retire another number, Carlos Beltran?
I'm done with number retirements. We don't win games on number retirements. And I feel like I don't even want to get crazy right now, man. I think it's just to fill seeds.
Get crazy.
Man. That's just to fill seeds, dude. Like they know the season's gonna be possibly who knows what. So it's like, let's make sure we get the diehards in there.
Yeah,
I'm tired of being a fish and baited in. Like,
yeah, I hear you. So I fully support Carlos Beltran Hall of Fame induction. He is a fantastic baseball player. This dude hit 435 home runs, 1,587 RBIs, 312 stolen bases. One of a stat that always sticks out to me as a fan about Carlos Beltran is that he led career numbers in stealing third base percentage wise, right? Like that always stood out to me as something Gary Cohen said.
That's a crazy stat. That's a crazy stat.
He's got a 70 WAR in his career, 70. So clearly Carlos Beltran, Hall of Famer. Obviously, he was a Met. I can't though see the Mets actually retiring his number when Carlos Beltran right now can't even come out and officially say he works for the team currently and can't come out and officially say I'm going to wear a Mets hat in the Hall of Fame. Like Cooperstown Hall of Fame, you're not going to wear a Mets hat and we're going to retire your number at Citi Field. Love you, Carlos, but
no.
I don't know, man.
We're good. Enjoy now.
Gotcha. All right, Kweisi, we're gonna get towards the end here. I appreciate you coming on with me, but before we let you go, if you became the general manager of the New York Mets, so David Stearns is the president of baseball ops. He hires you in the last few days right now, leading into spring training, and you have the helm. What are you doing to make this offseason a win? What's your plan?
Couldn't have been GM a few months ago, man. Right now, I guess I would just have to. I don't want to say what I really want to say.
Say what you want to say, man. It's all
I'm
good.
trading like
because here's what happens. You say what you want to say, and it's probably going to upset some people. But if you're right, we can go look back at this moment and say, David Stearns, listen to Kweisi on the Meet the Mets Fans podcast.
No, because I think about my takes at the same time. And listen, if I was going to do something right now, I'll probably go for Skubal, but it almost makes no sense to go for Skubal. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
Unless I can get like a guaranteed, I'm going to re-sign with you guys, then that's what I would do. I would go for him. But if I'm not doing that, I definitely sign Framber. If we can get Freddy and Framber, I think that would make me feel a lot better. So I do those two guys, and then if we have the money available, I would sign these two dudes, man. I don't even know if we have much money available left.
We are already over with the contract we just gave Bichette.
Yeah,
what we spent last year.
I'm not even sure what the numbers are, but to have all two of those guys is going to be pretty crazy. But that's what I would do. I'd first get Framber, then maybe Peralta. We'll see where his mind's at.
Gotcha. What would you trade? So if I told you to get Peralta, you're going to have to trade Jonah Tong and Brett Beatty. You make that trade?
Yeah, for Framber, Beatty,
for Freddy.
For Freddy, yeah, Beatty and Tong. See me, I wouldn't be a good GM because I'd be like, no, we'll give you Beatty, Well, realistically, if I had to,
So I think Beatty alone is not good enough, right? And
no, it's
I think Tong gets it done, Beatty and Tong. I think you make the they make the trade for Beatty and Tong. So I would have a hard time doing that. I would have a hard
I'm
time.
not
doing
afraid
that.
to trade Tong. Like a lot of people are. Me personally, he's definitely trade value. Like he's a part of my schoolable trade. Honestly, if he's a part of that. But Beatty and Tong, that's I guess yeah. Let's do it.
All right. All right. I mean, and if you can bring in a guy like Freddy Peralta, it makes this team, the 2026 Mets team, a legit team, especially if you add Fromber to that, right? Like, I think right now you're looking at being a playoff team if you can get one of those guys. If you can get both of those guys, now you're putting yourself on Dodger level. You're also putting yourself with a massive, massive payroll that Steve Cohen is going to have to shell out.
But in my opinion, if you get those two guys, you could do it because pitching is huge. You know, I feel like it's a possibility to still get it done with the guys we have at that point.
I'm with you, man. I'm with you, man. That would be a crazy end to this offseason, one that has been extremely disappointing up until the Bichette signing. But if you rubber stamp it with a couple of names you just added, I think Met fans would be saying Brandon Nimmo who, maybe not Pete Alonso who. I don't know if Met fans are getting over that one that easy.
Listen, I'm not over it, but I was ready. I was already prepared for. He was gone in my mind. I was really more upset about the Diaz situation. With that, I was like, dude, you was about to have Devin Williams like setting up for you, man. Like, what are you doing? Like, I feel like if Diaz would have signed back, it would have been another story. But forget that. It is what it is. Let's make something happen.
Make it happen, man. All right, that's gonna bring us to the end of the podcast, Kweisi. I appreciate you joining me on the pod, man.
I appreciate you, man. Thanks for having me.
Looking forward to seeing you at some Met games this year. Kweisi, I hope you share this with your friends and family so they can check out the pod. And we're trying to do some cool stuff here, bringing fans on to have this experience of co-hosting a podcast.
No, definitely. I extended it. I told Heck, I was like, yo, look out. I'm going to have Steph hit you up.
For sure. I mean, that would be awesome to do a collab with Hector, right? So for those of you who don't know, Hector from Washington Heights hosts the Blunt Thoughts podcast, super awesome podcast. He's doing cool stuff, and I've been with him at Met games while he's hosting live, and that's aspirations for me. He's been doing it for a while, so it'll take a minute.
Nah, man, you got it. I'm loving it.
Appreciate that. All right.
Go Mets, man. David Stearns, we hope to not be raising you at the stake at the end of the year.
Let's hope he's right. Let's hope so. There's nothing else we can do but hope.
That's it.
All right, man. Appreciate you, brother.
Most definitely. Later.
Yeah. Mets fans, I'm now with Justin. We are in the car studios. Big things to react to here for the New York Mets.
No doubt. What's up, Stefan? For our listening audience only, kind of what's going on right now is we're recording right now while driving. So our viewership, people watching on YouTube right now, it's going to be a little bit different. We're driving safely, but we're reacting to some big news that happened, not just with the Mets, but all around baseball. And we wanted to get our reaction out. But we have a lot going on in Metland right now, and so we're here recording. Let's get this going.
Justin, the Mets have made a huge addition here. So let's jump right into that. What are your thoughts? The Mets bring in Luis Robert. They trade Luis Angel Acuna and a minor league pitching prospect to bring him back here to Queens.
Yeah, so that trade happened at around like 11:30, 12 o'clock. If you're listening to this a couple of days later, that happened on, I guess, Wednesday morning. So, fan reactions and instant reactions didn't really happen until, that following morning. This seemed kind of inevitable. This name has been floated around last offseason, then again at the trade deadline. It's been floated around now again this offseason, and it seemed like Luis Robert has always been a guy that has kind of matched up really well for the Mets, for David Stearns, and our current need right now. Who we gave up is a young prospect, right, in Acuna, who we saw at the major league level all last year, someone that I think fans had a lot of hype for. We obviously gave up Scherzer for him a couple of years ago, where the Mets paid a huge portion of Scherzer's contract to get, at that time, a top 100 prospect. For us, we've saw over the last couple of years someone that he might develop into a really good player, but for the 2026 Mets, his role was going to be coming off the bench and maybe used as a pinch runner, maybe for like extra inning games, the Manfred rule, where he'd be on second base, maybe coming in the 8th, 9th inning again, trying to steal a run across the base. But if you're able to now swap him for who is now going to be our starting center fielder in Luis Robert, I don't see how Met fans could be that upset about it.
Yeah, I think the biggest thing that Met fans can be upset about here is the money that's attached to Luis Robert. I agree with you with Acuna is nice little player. I can't think about what happened with Max Scherzer and trading him for him. That's in the past, right? We've got him on our team. He wasn't going to contribute at a huge level for us, and so we're able to swap him for our starting center fielder. And it kind of pushes Tyrone Taylor either into left field if Benj is not ready, or if Brett Beatty takes that spot, then Tyrone Taylor ends up on your bench, and he's the guy that Acuna would have been, right? Your speedy guy off the bench, potentially a guy that can come in late for defense. And so I think this move makes total sense for the Mets. The only concern I think Met fans are going to have is the money that's attached here.
Yeah, so you were talking about that money. So what this contract looks like, essentially it's a 1-year contract. It is a $20 million contract for 2026. There's a $2 million buyout option if the Mets do not pick up his contract. So it's a team organization pickup in terms of the 2027 contract, where it'd be another $20 million. So essentially, if he performs really well, it's a team option for $20 million in 2027. If he doesn't perform well, it's a 1-year contract, and it'll be $22 million for this year. And so I hear you on the financials. I'm going to be honest with you. Clearly, Steve Cohen doesn't care about the financials. He has blown way past the budget in which he kind of talked about at the beginning of this offseason, that he said it might be a little similar to what they had last year. The last year's contract was last year's payroll was $340 million. We're now upwards of $380 million already for this current roster.
Yeah, and that's all that matters, right? If Steve Cohen doesn't care and he's willing to spend Dodger-like money, or and start approaching that level of saying it doesn't matter, the Dodgers are here, they're throwing all kinds of money at players, and I'm trying to compete, so I'm going to do the same thing. Then what does it matter to me how much money he's spending on this payroll? If the salary of these guys, if our payroll drops, I care. If our payroll continues to increase, we've got an owner that's willing to put his money where his mouth is and try to put a winner on the field. And so, yeah, to me, the money should not matter. If you're a Mets fan saying that guy's not worth $20 million, that guy's a scrub, that guy's washed up, the Mets clearly see something there. If you want to argue that he's had 2 bad years in a row, he's on the decline, he's not a really good player anymore, and so he's not worth the money, I can see people making that argument. At the end of the day, this is a guy, though, that had a really good season 3 seasons ago. The Mets are taking a bunch of shots on guys like that. Another guy like Marcus Semien, who potentially can bounce back in a different environment. And David Stearns said as much today when he spoke to the media at the Bichette press conference.
Yeah, David Stearns, he came out, as you were just mentioning before, and he talked about how sometimes a change of scenery is important for players. And what we look at when you look at Luis Roberts, right? So let's break it down a little bit further of like where his issues have been, is that he is a very high strikeout guy. You're talking about 2 years ago, this guy was at like 33% strikeout rate, where the league average is like 22%. Last year, that dropped down to about 26% in terms of his strikeout rate, a little bit better. And so when we're looking at like some of the metrics, right, he's elite bat speed, right? You're talking about in the 90th percentile. Elite exit velocity, then in the 90th percentile. And David Stearns and the Mets view this and they're looking at this and saying, hey, maybe this player has the skill set to bounce back. And with this change of scenery, maybe it's going to be someone that is going to give us, I'm not saying 38 home runs, but maybe this guy can be a 25 guy, right? He had 33 stolen bases last year. He had 25 stolen bases the previous year. So that's something that's already in his arsenal. Now, can he get back to hitting 25 home runs? Clearly, Stearns and the Mets think that can happen.
Yeah, I also think that he's coming into a less pressurized situation. And describing the New York market as a less pressurized situation seems weird when you're comparing it to the Chicago White Sox. But with the Chicago White Sox, he was the guy. He was the offensive player, the guy that was expected to produce. Coming into this lineup, I think the expectations are so low for him that he can come in here, and if he produces a little bit better than Tyrone Taylor, the Mets have an upgrade, right? If he can get back to the guy that you're describing, where he's a 25 home run guy, I don't think the strikeout numbers are going to be something that we see come down to like a Bichette, Marcus Semien type of number. But I do think a guy that could potentially hit 25 home runs and steal 25 bases is a legit piece to have lower in your order. And that's exactly where he's going to be here for the New York Mets. He's not going to be the 3-hitter on this team, the 4-hitter. I'd be shocked if he's the 5-hitter. Right? I think he's going to bat 6, 7, 8 in this lineup. And if he can play elite defense, he's a David Stearns fit. It's a guy with speed, with defensive ability, and now we need to see if the Mets can motivate him to get him back to the kind of player that he was before, where he's busting his tail to try to make sure that he's a successful player, and then the Mets want to pick up that $20 million option in 2027.
Yeah, I mean, you just talked about the 2025 center field and whether or not he's going to be an upgrade. I don't think fans realize how bad the Mets center field was last year. Between Cedric Mullins, Jeff McNeil, and Tyrone Taylor, and Jose Siri, right? Let's not forget about that interesting player that we had. The Mets batted.
I'd love to forget about that, actually.
They hit
it doesn't
8
matter.
home runs, and they had under a 600. Yeah. They batted 210. He had an under 600 OPS, and they hit 8 home runs as a collection in center field last year. Are you trying to tell me that Luis Roberts is not going to hit more than 8 home runs and bat better than 210? I'm having a hard time believing. And if that's the bar that we have to set, I think this is a huge upgrade for the Mets. If you're telling me that Luis Robert is not going to be an upgrade to center field offensively, I just don't think that that's a fair assumption to make. He is going to be better than what the Mets production gave last year in center field. And so it's a guy that's going to play elite defense, is a guy that's now shoring up the middle. When we talked about how run prevention and getting better defensively, I'm not trying to say that the Mets are perfect in that scenario, but the Mets have gotten better defensively up the middle. You added a Gold Glover in Simeon, and you added a Gold Glover in Luis Robert Jr. And so you have gotten better defensively. It is now going to help out if, let's say, it is a Carson Benj or it's a Brett Beatty in left field defensively. You are now going to have an elite center fielder. Clearly, Juan Soto struggled last year in right field. You now have a Luis Robert that is going to take a little bit of pressure off of him. And that is something that I think is not going to go unnoticed. And I think that Met fans is going to be a nice little reprieve for us, especially defensively.
Yes, and especially at that center field position. I'm with you totally. I particularly love this move. I think last year at the trade deadline, we were looking at potentially adding Luis Robert Jr. to this team, and I think we all wish we did instead of Cedric Mullins. At that time, though, it probably would have cost us Mark Vientos to do it. And I'll tell you right now that if we ended up trading Mark Vientos to get him here, I wouldn't love this move as much. I think a big part of why I really enjoy this move, and I think it's the right move for the Mets, is it fills this hole, and we ended up giving up a player that for us was a bench player. And I think that that's why this move makes the most sense for the Mets. It makes the most sense for Luis Robert, and Chicago gets a nice little player in Luis Angel Acuna.
Yeah, listen, I know that we're sounding really positive here. I'm optimistic. We're hoping that it's a bounce back. We're hoping that he can continue to play elite defense. He's going to get stolen bases. He's currently working out right now in the Boris facility all off season. Maybe he's able to stay healthy. We saw last year his strikeout rate has dropped, something that, again, that the Mets have been targeting, whether or not David Stearns is going to admit that. But another guy whose strikeout rate has dropped, his walks increased in terms of percentages. And so hopefully we're getting a player that at least is going to be dominant or at least really good against left-handed pitching. And hopefully he's able to figure it out. And it's a move that I'm optimistic about. We needed to get an outfielder. Clearly, we were not going to go into the season with Tyrone Taylor as their center fielder and a rookie in Carson Benj or Brett Beatty playing left field. We had to get someone. And so this is the guy that the Mets went with. Let's hope it works out. Let's be optimistic, Met fans. It's a player that currently today, as of this recording, which currently today is January 21st, the New York Mets are now a better team as of January 20th.
For sure. And it's a couple of days in a row now since the Bichette signing and now the Luis Robert trade. The Mets have gotten better this week. And I think it's starting to shape up where you can see what this team is really going to look like. But let's jump into the Bichette press conference, which took place today on the day that we're recording this. So Bichette was live at Citi Field. The media was there. It was a pretty short press conference. David Stearns spoke a little bit. Bichette spoke a little bit, and then they took questions from the media. And we'll jump into some of our takeaways from that meeting.
Yeah, we're not going to go break down too much in terms of like what was said, but essentially what the big takeaway was they talked about him as a player in terms of his commitment to win, his dedication, his hard work. He's a locker room guy, which is something that has been a stressor this offseason. And they talked about how he's resilient, right? A lot of it was brought up in terms of his, approach with runners in scoring position. David Stearns talked about how some players are able to calm down in high pressure situations, and Bichette is clearly someone that is able to do that. I think the biggest takeaway, or one of the funniest moments in the press conference, Stefan, was when Jon Heyman asked the question about the contract. So I don't know if you want to jump into that.
So Jon Heyman, I think, comes in and asks the question that everybody wants to talk about, which is in regards to the opt-out for Bichette and why he decided to take a contract that allows him to opt out after 1 year, and whether or not that means he's essentially viewing New York and viewing the Mets as a long-term place for him to play. And his agent kind of puts his hand out towards Bo before he starts speaking. Bo has this shocked look on his face, and his agent's like, "I got this one. You're not going to respond to that question. I'm gonna respond to that question."
Yeah, I love it. It was funny, man. I heard David Stearns afterwards was like, "Good job on the press conference. Way to not answer that question." Yeah, and so his agent kind of comes out. He talks about we're committed to the Mets. We view this place, right, as a place that we believe we can win in. We want to win a World Series. The Mets are constantly putting a competitive team on the field. But, in terms of the financials, it was funny, man. The agent, stops him right away, puts his arm out. And I'm glad Bo didn't answer that question, because at the end of the day, he's doing what's best for him, right? The Mets weren't offering him a long-term contract. The Mets were giving him a short-term contract because that's what they wanted. And for him and his family, this is what he decided to do, and I hope it works out for all parties. I hope Bichette is a Met for a long time. It means that he's a damn good player that has helped us win something. All right, so after Bo has your initial press conference, they take a bunch of pictures. Again, if you weren't able to view this on YouTube or on SNY today. And then he does an interview with Gelbs, again, talking about his commitment, the big impact of some of the things that he mentioned. He talks about. He talks about Bo as a player. He talks about his transition to third base and how he believes he's going to be successful. And so after Bo has his initial interview, we have David Stearns that gets interviewed by Steve Gelbs. He obviously talks about Bo as the player. But then Steve Gelbs asks an interesting question. He says, hey, is the type of player that you're targeting this year a player like Bichette in terms of high contact, low strikeout, someone that can hit with runners in scoring position? And I thought David Stearns' answer was kind of interesting. So go ahead, Stefan. You want to kind of talk about his answer to that?
Yeah, I think we're sitting there listening to him talk about this. And what he says is, we're not necessarily looking for guys that don't strike out. We're looking for guys that have competitive at-bats through the top to the bottom of our lineup and who are going to have those competitive at-bats throughout the entire season. Guys that aren't giving up on at-bats, depending on the time of the year that it is. And that's an interesting thing to say. It's almost like this weird dig at last year's team where he's almost saying that some of the guys that were on this team last year gave up on at-bats, especially at various points throughout the year. And if you're thinking about times last year where the Mets were going through those lulls where they couldn't, win games, they couldn't score runs for days on end, I think a player can get into that mindset of I'm not going to make a play here, I'm not going to get a hit here, and almost give up on the at-bat. And I don't know if there was ever a moment where I can point to and say, yeah, they look like they don't even care up there. But there were definitely frustrating moments where guys were up there just kind of taking pitches and stuff. And maybe that's what he's referring to here. Maybe we're reading way too much into it, but it was a very interesting way to say that we're looking for guys to have competitive at-bats. He could have stopped there. But to make a reference to say competitive at-bats throughout the entire year, throughout the entire season, I thought was an interesting calculated decision-making in the way that he answered the question.
Yeah, I thought Gelbs kind of teed him up for just an easy answer of hey, we didn't make a lot of contact last year. We had guys that struck out a little bit too much. We're looking to have a different approach at the plate. But again, like you said, he kind of talks about this in a sense of that players were giving up, or maybe they were giving up, and we want competitive at bat. So I just thought it was really a weird way, like you just kind of mentioned, of answering that question. Let's hope that this is a team that is a little bit more resilient than last year, considering that they were 70 when trailing going into the ninth inning. And so, we definitely deserve and need to get a couple of wins going into this year when our backs are against the wall. Something else that stood out was then Gelbs kind of asked the question of, where do we go now, right? Is after this move with Luis Robert, is this now done in terms of the offensive players? And David Stearns, again, very calculated with the way he speaks. He said, we're comfortable. We're happy with our player group right now. If opportunities show up or opportunities come, yeah, sure. We're of course always open. But it sounds like they're pretty much done in terms of adding offensive pieces to this mix.
Yeah, and that kind of makes sense. I feel like where the offense is at, the Mets should be comfortable. The Mets have a team that is, like we've said repeatedly on this pod, a very different team than the team that we've had on the field for the last couple of years. But offensively, I think this is going to be an exciting team to watch, a team that's going to put the bat on the ball. And like David Stern says, have competitive at-bats, right? And so they feel like they've got those guys on the team. What Stearns essentially goes on to say with Gelbs is the focus now essentially is on pitching. And Gelbs straight up asks him, are you still looking to add a starting pitcher to this roster? And I think Stearns easily could have said, we'd love to do that. However, we'll see. We're happy with the guys we have, but he didn't say that. He said that is still his intention, is to add another starting pitcher to this roster. He can't guarantee that that's going to happen. We'll see how the market plays out. There's still time left, a lot of time left before spring training, a lot more time left before the start of the season. But to come out and say it is my intention to add a starting pitcher to this team, I thought was an interesting response by Stearns.
Yeah, no doubt. He says, my preference is still to add a starting pitcher. Open to this. I've been very open all offseason to that, is that I want to add a frontline starting pitcher. And I believe that's going to happen. Now, I don't know if it's going to happen in the offseason or if they're going to have to wait till the trade deadline, because I think, like you said, by being so open about it, it makes teams say they're desperate. They clearly need this or they want this. And maybe the price tag is a little bit too rich for the Mets currently at this time. We want to jump into like around the majors, and it kind of brings up and talks about how, Freddy Peralta is a guy that has been discussed with the Mets. He's been discussed with a lot of teams. And, there was a report that came out today that talked about how the Brewers asked for Tong and it got shut down right away. And then the Brewers then countered with what I believe to be a pretty big package. So, Stefan, you want to kind of talk about what that alleged offer was that the Brewers were asking for?
Yeah, and it's interesting. The offer was for Jett and for Sproat. So they said, no way we're going to trade you Tong. And the Brewers said, all right, what about Jett and Sproat instead of Tong? And I think that says a couple of things. One, it speaks to the value of Tong. The Brewers asked for Tong, and immediately the Mets are like, no, we're not trading one of our top 5 prospects. But then the offer that they get back is for Jett and Sproat. And obviously the Mets haven't made a trade for Freddy Peralta. But the Brewers are looking at a guy like Tong and saying it would be a straight-up trade, it sounded like. And instead of getting that, we're looking for Jett Williams and Brendan Sproat. And the Mets clearly are not willing to part with their top prospects in order to get a rental in a guy like Freddy Peralta.
Yeah, I mean, Baseball America just came out with the top 100 list, and the Mets have 6 of those guys currently on that list. 2 of those guys that the Brewers are allegedly asking for in a trade package for a rental player in Freddy Peralta are on that top 100 list. So we're not just talking about top 5 prospect in the Mets organization. We're talking about a top 100 prospect in all of baseball, not just one of them, but 2 of them. And so I'm with you, Stefan, or I'm assuming that you're with you, that I think that's a little bit too rich in terms of the ask. I understand that they're prospects and they might not pan out. And Freddy Peralta is a proven, high-end 2, low-end number 1 starting pitcher for an organization. But to give up that much in terms of prospect haul for a rental, I just don't think makes a lot of sense for the Mets.
Yeah, I think we entered into this offseason saying that Peralta would probably be the guy the Mets had the best ability to go and get because he'd cost the least amount. I think the one thing with Peralta that you can look at and say he might be worth it is because of the AAV he's going to have this year. He's making a relatively cheap contract for an ace-like pitcher. But I agree with you that I would not trade 2 top 5 prospects for a rental. I would be very much open to that type of trade, though, if there was an agreement of a period of time where the Mets can speak to him about an extension. And that's happened in the past. I don't know if it's something that would happen now. I don't believe that Scott Boras is Freddy Peralta's agent. I know Scott Boras would shut something down like that with Skubal. Like, that's never going to happen. But with Freddy Peralta, with David Stearns' experience with him, having signed him originally, maybe there is some type of possibility where the Mets can negotiate that and say, we'd be more open to trading 2 of our top 5 prospects for a guy that we can sign to at least a 3-4 year deal in Freddy Peralta.
Well, it's going to be a 3.
Until play,
yeah, it's going to be a 3-year deal if it's Stearns giving that.
Yeah, a 3-year deal with an opt-out after 1,
Yeah, I'm with you, Stefan. I think that Freddy Peralta is an interesting name. I'm happy the Mets have not done something like that just yet. I don't believe that guy or that player is worth it, especially for a rental. But we'll see. I'm confident, and Mets fans should be confident that David Stearns and Steve Cohen are not done. That they understand that they are in need of a potential ace or a top-end starting pitcher. And if the last couple of weeks hasn't given you guys enough confidence that the Mets are going to continue to improve this roster, then I'm not sure what else that you guys can do or they can do in the offseason to make it such, right? Like, they have made this team a whole heck of a lot better in the last couple of weeks. And I think the Mets and Met fans need to give Cohen and Stearns a little bit of a reprieve here and allow them to continue to improve this roster, because they're going to.
Yeah, I've been the one saying repeatedly that I think that Stearns is very happy with the starting rotation and the way that it is now. I think he's very happy to bank on the bounce backs of all the guys, the Peterson being able to go the whole year, Senga being able to bounce back, Minaya being able to bounce back, and then the youth of our pitching prospects coming in and having a full year under their belts as major league starters. But, the one thing I'll take out of what Stearns said is he pretty much said I'm wrong, right? He pretty much said, Stefan has no idea what he's talking about. He has no idea what's in my head. I'm looking to add a frontline starter, and he's going to try. He did also say, though, that I don't know what's going to happen. And I can't guarantee that that's going to happen. So he opens up the possibility to saying, I'm not going to get fleeced. I'm not going to go throw the farm away to try to make sure that I add that frontline starter, which I think speaks a little bit to how much he values those young guys. If you're saying to yourself that Sproat and Tong are guys that I plan on having on my major league roster for the next 5 years, why would I trade them for Freddy Peralta? Right? Are both of those guys worth it? Or is one of those guys and Jett Williams worth it?
I'm with you. And you see the contracts that are getting handed out right now in this offseason. It makes a lot of sense that the Mets are not willing just to give up these top prospects right now for a rental. It's because in order for the Mets to really have a true successful run of multiple years, they are going to have to bring up some young guys that are able to balance out this budget a little bit. I understand that Cohen is willing to spend when he believes the Mets are it's necessary, but at a certain point, it's got to be some young guys that are coming up that are able to balance out and are able to produce along with some veteran free agents that can kind of seal the deal here. And so, I hear you. I believe that that's kind of the approach that they're taking. I'm still confident that the Mets are going to make a move in terms of a starting pitcher.
Yeah, I think those teams are going to have to come down in order for that to happen. That's my concern is why would they? Right? Why would the Brewers come down on Freddy Peralta and ask for less? Why would the Marlins look to get a lesser package than what we just talked about with Sproat and Jett for Sandy Alcantara, right? And I think those are the two guys, and I've said it on the pod. There are three frontline starting pitchers that I would make a trade for. Freddy Peralta, Sandy Alcantara, and Tarek Skubal. Beyond them, who are you looking to get that's actually a frontline starter? I don't know that there's many. And if the asking price on guys that are rentals is this high, I don't know.
Yeah, listen, you got a guy like Joe Ryan, who is currently arguing over arbitration money, right, with the Twins. He is someone that is under contract for the next couple of years. And so if that's going to get ugly in terms of arbitration, which we know that basically these guys walk into a room and the team that they're currently on tells them how much they suck, maybe that gets uglier and Joe Ryan becomes available. But yeah, I think that the Freddy Peralta is different than the Sandy in terms of Sandy's under team control for a couple of years. So I do think that matters a little bit. Now, Scuba's in a different planet just because he is the best pitcher in all of baseball. And in order to get a guy like that, you're going to have to give up massive prospects. But I don't view Freddy Peralta in that same light. And so if you're going to give me only a rental, I'm not willing to give up that package that the Brewers are allegedly asking for.
Yeah, but so that being said, the Marlins call up and say, we're looking for Tong or we're looking for Sproat and Jett Williams. Are you willing to make that deal?
I think I'd rather give up Sproat and Jett Williams than I'd rather give up Tong. I think Tong is the real deal in terms of pitching. He's currently ranked like number 16 overall in all of baseball. We saw last year he was the best pitcher overall in the minors in all of baseball. He's a kid. He's 22 years old. He's got electric stuff. And I do believe that he could be the real deal. I'm not saying that Sproat's not going to be good. I'm not saying that Jett Williams isn't going to be good. But if you're asking me right now who I'd rather hold on to, the answer is Tong. And so if that is the potential package that's going to take for Sandy, I might be more willing to give that up for Sandy Alcantara than I am for a Freddy Peralta. One last piece of, I got you. One last piece of news we want to get to. Obviously, Mets got Luis Robert. David Stearns came out and said pretty much offensively, we're pretty much done here. And so the big news around baseball is that Cody Bellinger has finally signed. He has re-signed with the New York Yankees on a 5-year, $162.5 million contract with opt-outs after years 2 and year 3. Stefan, what's your reaction?
Yeah, just on the Cody Bellinger signing, I felt like this was inevitable. It felt like it was going to happen for the Yankees. We've been saying it for a while. I think the Mets had a chance before the Robert signing to come in there, swoop in with a high AAV deal and shock everybody and say, look, we're giving Cody Bellinger $50 million to come play for us. I think there's a lot of Met fans that would have been super happy with that decision and probably would have enjoyed that more than the Luis Robert signing. But it just felt as though the Mets saw an opportunity to get a guy that brings them solid defense in Luis Robert, potential opportunity for a breakout offensive season, and said we're going to roll with that instead of giving big time money to Cody Bellinger. And it just feels as though Cody Bellinger wanted to be with the Yankees. He was just waiting for the best possible offer, and then the Mets getting Robert essentially tanked any opportunity that they were going to come in and raise that contract offer up from the Yankees.
Yeah, I think it's pretty clear. And I think that there's a lot of Met fans right now that are upset that we didn't get Bellinger and we got Roberts, where it's not that much more money. I think it's pretty clear. Cody Bellinger wanted to be a New York Yankee. He always wanted to go back to the Yankees. Scott Boras was using the Mets as leverage. And once the Mets got a feeling that they were being used, and Steve Cohen has addressed this and talked about this, is that he's pretty keen on that type of stuff. When he feels like he's being used for negotiations, I feel like they pivoted and said, yo, we're out of this. Let's go get our guy. Let's get Roberts. Let's shore up this outfield right now. Let the Yankees get Bellinger. Let him re-sign over there. And for a Met fan, don't be upset. I don't think he was ever a realistic target unless they were going to severely outmatch or severely overpay what the Yankees were willing to give to him.
Yeah, I'm with you. And, I'm happy with the move that the Mets ended up making. Met fans should be happy with that move as well. If you're not, ultimately, I don't know that it was ever going to happen for him here. But yeah, those are the big things happening around this team, around baseball right now. Glad that we were able to hop on and address them. A little bit of a choppy edition here with us driving, but glad to get this one out to Met fans. Met fans, keep the reactions coming to us. Keep responding to things on our social media. We're going to try to get you guys onto the pod. And like Kweisi came on with me, love to bring another Met fan on to tell their origin story.
Yeah, one last thing. The Mets did sign a reliever a few minutes ago. Luis Garcia is a 38-year-old journeyman. He pitched to an under 4 ERA last year to a $1.75 million contract, which it's incentivized base. So it's a 1.25 he can earn in incentives. So we'll see if that's another depth piece right for their bullpen, someone that they're going to plug in there. Hopefully he's someone that sticks around. We know that the Syracuse train last year was pretty robust. So we'll see if this is going to be a guy that can stick on and help us for the 2026 season.
Yeah, and my fans, if you're looking at that and seeing that deal as a major league contract, it definitely is. That doesn't necessarily mean that that's a guy that's going to be at the major league level for the entire season. I think the Mets have shown that if they have a guy that doesn't produce or that they believe will stick around if they designate them for assignment, that they're more than willing to do that.
Yeah, no doubt. All right, Met fans, right? Another good day in Metland, right? We have improved our team. Let's be optimistic.
Yeah, absolutely. Let's go Mets.
Meet the Mets fans, voices rising up from the stands. Hear their cheers, hear their groans, feel their highs, feel their moans. Stories untold now on the mic. Mets fans unite.